Okay, we're going to also invite Andrew Bymen, MD. I never knew you were MD, doctor. He was one of the lead drafters of the health reform bill that got passed. He's a senior staffer with the House Energy and Commerce Committee. He's working on FMAP and Medicaid. If it's okay if you could make some remarks, we'd be really grateful. Find out what's going on in the House regarding Medicaid. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'll just make a couple of comments to update really these excellent comments here, just to describe a little about where we are in the process. Where we're at right now is that the ability to act on this right now sits over in the Senate. They're have added back in the $25 billion or so, $24.1 billion into the FMAP extension, and they would then, if they were able to get 60 votes, and obviously getting 60 votes is tricky business over on that other side, it would be an opportunity for us to reconsider in the House. And just sort of looking back at what happened just before the recess and trying to understand where we are in the House, we had a letter going into this. I think a lot of people had the sense that this was likely to be something that was going to be part of the extenders bill. It was somewhat surprising when it sort of dropped off at the end. There was a letter with 219 members of the House had signed on to, including the majority of the Blue Dogs were part of that letter. So I think it was a bit of a surprise. In talking it over, I mean, some of our senses perhaps there was a little uncertainty about whether our colleagues in the Senate would ultimately not be supportive of what we sent over there. I think it was a little bit of some uncertainty between the two chambers. I think if we have an opportunity and this comes back over from the Senate, this does present a new chance to move forward on this legislation, but I think it's critical that we stay focused on it and recognize the importance of the issues that are being raised here, and not just take for granted that this will be accepted. I think if you look at the groups of the members of Congress who were a little uncomfortable at the time that it was added on the extenders bill, it's both some of the Blue Dog Coalition, but also some of the newer representatives were as well, I think, somewhat anxious because of some of the concerns about the deficit spending and so forth. But this is a critical piece of legislation for some of the issues raised here. One is this is not just something that will preserve Medicaid programs in states, but is an important part of job stimulus. I think we all recognize, and there's a very nice new report out from the Center for Budget Priorities you might want to look at, that talks about the impact of this spending on jobs in different states. So I think that's an important issue to keep in mind. The issue's been raised about timing and how it affects state spending. I think there's still tremendous opportunities, if it's acted on quickly, for states to be able to take advantage of these monies and to incorporate them and use them in their state budgets, even in those cases in which legislatures are out. There are vehicles in probably all, if not most, states to be able to take advantage of these funds. So it's still an important window, an opportunity. Of course, we can't act until the Senate sends something back to us. The anticipation is that that might be as early next week when we'll know about that from our Senate colleagues. But we then need to really be prepared to educate our members about the value of this in terms of both jobs, in terms of state budgets, and preserving the Medicaid programs in these states. So those are kind of where we're at timing-wise. I think we're ultimately hoping to see back something that was very much similar to what was in the extenders bill when it got dropped off before the recess. And of course, we have to wait to see what that looks like when it comes back from the Senate side. But the indications are, at least at this point, prior to amendments, it looks like that. There may be some amendments that are attempted on the Senate side, and we'll just have to deal with those as they come up.